got to teach this kid from a young age. It's all about learning. It's all about being honest with themselves. It's all about being able to complain or moan or say about something that they're not happy with. And as soon as they get released or something goes against them, they don't know what to do with them. You have to show respect to these people. You have to show respect to yourself. You have to understand how much it takes to get to that level. Craig Bellamy, mate, will be like, yo, he lost his head. He's screaming at me. Yo, I don't want it to happen with me. I had to make an investment in myself to dig deeper, see why I'm having all these thoughts, to understand myself. It's normal that as humans we do encounter this type of emotions and feelings. You can't just hide it away due to the fact that you're scared of being judged.
Okay, bro, we're in. Yes, we're live. Welcome, people, to another episode of the Coach Gerald Lami podcast. I'm joined, as ever, with a energetic, just better fitness, aka Jayden. Big up, Jayden. Yeah. Welcome. Yeah. Joined by, again, the flamboyant Mr. DB9, aka Dan. Welcome again, Dan. At two. Okay, we got a special guest today, people. Yeah, we got Cristian Montano. You might have heard him before in a podcast. Done one earlier with him. And we've got Cristian, aka Champion Mindset. We're going to talk about basically things in football that we've encountered in terms of the mental side of the game, the good work that Cristian's doing with Man United, or Men Unite, should I say, and everything else, man. Welcome, Chris. Welcome to the show, bro.
Thank you, guys.
Anytime, man. Anytime. So something that obviously is getting a bit more publicity now in terms of football, and in particular mental health in football as well. Obviously, football is predominantly a male sport. Obviously, the women's game is growing huge now, but in terms of the men's side of the game, you know, especially as young men, the way we've been brought up, you can't really speak up about certain things that you go through and etc. So it's important to kind of have these conversations and speak about our experiences and things like that. So just to touch on Cristian and kind of speak about the champion mindset movement that you got going on at the moment.
Well, as Coach Gerald mentioned, obviously my name's Cristian, and at the moment I'm contracted to Port Vale Football Club. And to talk about mental health. Mental health is something big that is happening around the world, and only recently it's getting a lot of attention because a lot of people are starting to talk about it a bit more and realizing that it's actually a normal thing that people go through, and it should be normalized more and give people the confidence and the courage to speak about what they're going through. And I believe so. A lot of people probably tend to hide it because of the word mental. Yeah. When you've got mental in front of health, people all of a sudden are going to think you're crazy. They're going to say you need to be locked up somewhere, you get me? And that's why when I speak about it, I also tend to use emotional health. Okay. Rather than mental. It gives people the sort of like ease them into it so they can understand. They can actually speak about it without me judging them or without being or feel the way that I'm going to think that they've got some sort of like craziness going on in their lives. And obviously with what I'm doing now, obviously I've been through and I've had my own demons, which I've named depression and anxiety. And I've overcome all of that. Obviously, you guys know what I've been through, and obviously my story with that's been well documented. And now with the champion mindset thing that I'm doing, it's more a brand that I've been working on during lockdown. Is a brand that's going to hopefully people can identify with. And it's not just, obviously when you hear the word champion, all of a sudden you think you want something, you want a trophy, you have won something materialistic. And it's not that. It's more about you becoming your own champion, you winning your own battles, whether that may be overcoming your own fears. And it's not just that. You overcome a fear, and all of a sudden you're going to encounter another fear. You got to push through that to become your own champion and be proud of what you've become. And those who are struggling, and can't get over what they're going through, when they do wear the brand, they can look down in the chest and then realize that's the mindset they got to have to overcome whatever issue they're encountering.
Yeah, no,
So
for sure, man. No, it's, it's important, man. It's important that message gets spread across, and it's like the champion isn't the end of it all. And again, another brand that you're sporting, a close friend of ours, Michael Elevern. It's all about, obviously, just we have our times where sometimes things are not going the best, but it's all about how we bounce back, how we kind of go through those barriers as well. But in particular, elevate. We have to, man. But in particular, what I want to kind of touch on is how football affects us mentally as well, because obviously as you know, young men, we all had the dreams to get to the highest level. Obviously, Christian, you're playing professionally at the moment, but in terms of like getting to the highest level and some of the things that maybe we've encountered with managers and how that's kind of knocked down our confidence and things like that. So I'll just obviously me and Dan kind of briefly, we've got one coming out about our journey and things like that, but I just want to touch on with Jayden, just basically, just what's your experience been like through football in terms of managers, in terms of any setbacks that you've faced, that's kind of like maybe possibly kind of maybe not using these words depressed, but like anything that's kind of just held you back a little bit in terms of confidence and kind of affected your daily life as well.
Yeah. So I'd say, obviously, from my experience of football, it's from Sunday League. You know, you go in there. Me being left-footed when I was younger, it was always like people always saying to me, "Man, you're left-footed. You know, you're a special player." I feel like that was the start of it. You know, when people tell you how good you are when you're younger, at that beginning, you don't really know what being a good player is. You're just being told by other people. So through Sunday League, it was quite easy for me just to play Sunday League, because I was always like one of the best, if not the best player all the time, Sunday League, being a striker, scoring all the time. So for me, it was just like, yeah, in my mindset, yeah, I'm a great football player. It's just enough to dream. My mindset then changed when I got into the academy level, when then the pressure then came, and then you've got an expectation to perform week in, week out. And then maybe when you're at Sunday League level, practice and training isn't as you know, I would say specific as it is at academy level. So if that means that you've got to do Cruyff turns and do them with sharp turns with your right foot, left foot, purposeful, I feel like that was the moment to me when I started to get into like more so the mental side of it, because it was more so you're then watching other players that were on the same level as you at that age. And after all the belief of people telling you how good you are, if you don't have that mindset to know that you're actually a good player, or it might not even be the fact that you need the mindset. Sometimes it just comes down to the practice. So once I had seen that I hadn't practiced enough,
yeah,
it kind of went down a bit, like, oh, I'm not as good as what I believed I was. But through the love of the game, it was almost like you still want to go and play, but then it's like you're now coming across and you're hearing about all of these great other academy players that are all around England, not just locally to you, not just in London, but all over England. You're hearing about all of these players. So for me, it was like, I then got somewhere at Sunday League level, like I'm one of the best players. Then you go to academy and it's like nobody again. And when it just came down to managers, it just all depends on, you know, the wordings or the type of words that certain managers use. Sometimes it could just come down to tactics. For me, that was one of the most scariest things when it came to tactics. I played at academy level for Crystal Palace, Tottenham, and Watford. Watford, I was at a trial with. Palace, I was there for about 3-4 months. But the difference between even just personalities of managers, I think, has a big difference. And I feel like it's the personalities of the people that you meet when it comes to football, and it depends on the feedback that you get. Sometimes from some of the managers, they don't really understand how to have just a normal talk with someone so young. I feel like it's so pressurized to win. And then you might, when I was at Tottenham, it wasn't about winning, it was more about self-development. When it came to the times of, oh, we're losing, and then you know, you're speaking to some of the academy managers, they're telling you it's not about winning, it's about your self-development. And I was kind of confused by that whole process in between that. I think that was when I was about 16. I was very confused because all my life I just thought it was all about winning. It was all about winning, not about self-development. So I never really worked on self-development before. So I was really opened up to a new life when it came to the mental side of the game. And I probably say I definitely struggled when I got to the academy level, that my talent was only good enough to a certain extent, but there was work rate and then there was also practice as well. And I feel like because I didn't practice, that had a great impact on my mental. So yeah, I'll probably say as I got to 16, 17, after a while, you start to think, you know, you're not good enough. And once you haven't told yourself that, or someone hasn't taught you to believe in yourself as an individual, then you kind of don't really know what type of words to use in order to get yourself out of that rut, to say, look, you know, I'm a good player. I believe in my journey. You're more so waiting for a coach or somebody else to tell you you're a great player. And sometimes not everybody's going to be there to tell you that you're a great player, man. So yeah, sometimes with the coaches at, I would say, non-league level, maybe they don't have that type of coaching, I would say, qualities to actually understand the mental side of the game for an individual who's struggling. They only know about just to win the game. So it doesn't matter about the player's health or the individual. It's just all about just winning. Do you know what I mean? But then when you're at youth level, it's about development, not so much winning. So it's about trying to find the balance there.
So nice. You brought you brought up some good points there, Jay. And I want to speak with just touch onto Dan's experience, because obviously, Dan, you come through the system of obviously youth football academies, etc., to the point where you stopped playing football, to the point where you got back into football, went through the non-league system, went to play full-time football abroad, etc. So you've had a vast majority of your time that you've experienced different places and different cultures, different managers, different things. So in terms of like your mental side of the game, like when you was going through that transition, obviously, again, we've got something coming out about that, but in terms of yourself, like what differences would you say you found from, like, if you look back at yourself, maybe you was like when you were 16 to where you are maybe when you was like 25 and you was, you know, or 23 when we was actually doing some good things in football, like mentally, what did you have to like experience to get to that level where you was at the age of 23?
Interesting question, bro. I would say I started out as like a very confident youth. Had like a good background, family background. So it's like my mum always instilled that kind of never say die mentality into me from young. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So based on experiences as well, obviously things that I went through with my mum on a personal level shaped me to be strong enough to deal with things and maybe look at some things as that others may see as major problems as something that I can fix, or there's got to be a solution to. So I carried that mentality into football. As I touched on, obviously, in our interview, like when I was young, I had the world at my feet. I had everything given to me. You know, it was go here, do this, picked for this, first for that. So your mentality becomes, if you're not careful, and obviously Christian, I'm sure can understand that too, you can become complacent, just understanding that everything's at your feet. Like I'm the best or the second best in the whole academy. Like everyone's, you know, giving me things. Obviously there was things that they implemented, like back in the days that they used to make us wash at players' boots and stuff like that. So it gave us more of that grounded level of understanding that you're still not a first team player. Do you know what I mean? So you might train with the first team, you might be with the first team might like you might even be in their locker, but you're not a first team player yet. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So anyhow, fast forward, it gave me the understanding that, of course, you have to be grounded in order to get to where you wanted to get to. Touching on what Jayden said, which was a key point, in especially Tottenham, there was at least two that I can point out. There was a vast amount, but at least two coaches that I can point out that were very good with getting into your head in a positive way, encouraging the best within you and giving you that platform to be able to say, listen, now I've given you that, now I want to see you deliver it. So it's encourage, build up courage, and then go and perform and show me that you can kind of do it on your own. So that independence. Dropping out of football, of course, was hard. It was to, obviously, as we spoke about, exterior reasons, you know, crying out for attention from my my parents. Obviously, they was going for a divorce, hanging around with the local boys and rather taking the path that we were all on rather than my own path at the time. And then that steers you, but it also gives you something, which I feel that's what that gave us that mentality again, that never say die, to go back in, because you know what you've been through, you know what you've hung around, you know some of the things that you've seen, some of the things that you've witnessed, been around or whatever. So it gives you that mentality to say, well, I'm grateful to be here, even though I'm frustrated that I'm sitting on this bench at a club where I'm probably the best player. I'm grateful to be here because I could have been somewhere else just doing God knows what. So I feel like it's like a build-up of understanding yourself. I'd say the difference between me back then, obviously, was the confidence. Your confidence does get knocked at some points. And that's the hardest point, where you have to go within and seek that person who's really inside there and expose your weaknesses and expose your vulnerabilities. Like, listen, not so good at that no more, mister. Like, yeah, cool. You used to be able to flick it and spin and outpace a player. You're not that guy no more. Find a new game. You're stiff. Like loosen up. Loosen up the hips. Like, learn how to pop it and move, and do you know what I'm saying? Get more clever and watch different players. Like, you're watching Cristiano Ronaldo, you're not as fast as him no more, bro. Like, you got to find someone else.
Good, Muller or someone.
I'd have Muller. I'd take Muller. Trust. But like, you got to go within and you got to be honest to yourself. That's the main thing. And in that journey, that's where you kind of awaken that beast. So when fast forward into that point where you're saying, you know, when we're like 23, 24 and we're going abroad and we're getting back into football, we're playing at good levels, that was all of that build up. And the mental side of that was challenging up to a point. But it's like, I feel like our situation was kind of unique because we had each other as a support factor. So it's like, if I feel down, I'll just speak about it. If you feel down, you'll just speak about it. If you're like, bro, I don't know, man, I've only got a couple more games, I'm like, come on, man, we got to do this. Or likewise, do you know what I mean? So it's that mentality that kind of... That support group. And I did say at the time when you packed it in earlier, I felt like, wow, this is mad. Like, so now what? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I understand completely, man. And I think it's important to touch on that as well, like Chris, because you've spoken before about as well in terms of having that support group and the organizations that you're working with at the moment that you know, support people that are going through whatever they're going through. I know they're more so not just football. I think they're using football as a tool to kind of bring people together. But in terms for you as well, like the things that you was going through within football, going down to from West Ham, going down to lower league clubs and things like that, even though you was trying to get more first team action. But the difference between going from a club like West Ham and going down to like Oldham or going to Bristol Rovers, and these clubs are completely different. Now, when you was going through your things, like, how important is it to have people around you that you can speak to about your mental side?
No, it's very important, you know. But like Dan touched on there, you've got to be honest with yourself. Obviously, back then when I was going through what I was going through, it was different, you get me? I thought I was alone. Obviously, the thoughts were eating me. And the way I was thinking, I was feeling it, and I was acting on them as well. But now that I understand it all, sometimes, obviously, with what we're talking about, it's got to start from young, like Jayden was saying. At grassroots football, Sunday League, or whatever they call it, it's all about winning. You win, you get praised. You lose, you get hammered, you get battered. Oh, you're not good enough, you're not this. Oh, you should have moaned. Then you go into academy level and you get treated differently. A little bit different, but it's still got to change in regards of, you've got to teach these kids from a young age that it's all about learning. It's all about being honest with themselves. It's all about being able to complain or moan or say about something that they're not happy with. Like with me, when I moved to Oldham, obviously going from academy, professional, Premier League, Championship, whatever there might be. It's different how you've got so many coaches you've got that can speak to you. You've got an individual fitness coach, for example, that can actually help you. Yeah. Like a psychologist at a time as well when I was a young kid, obviously, because everything I went through when I went from obviously a proper fresher kid that couldn't speak English to West Ham. And then I had someone who would help me with the language barrier. So he was so good. And I moved to Oldham, and it was more about, it became like a job. Because all of a sudden you're playing for people's life, you're playing for your own life. If you don't perform, or to the extent where if you get injured, the way they managed it was different. Oh, you're injured. Sometimes, you're not important to us.
Yeah.
You get me? So if you're a player and mentally you're weak, it would affect you mentally. Like, it would literally fuck your head up. Because all of a sudden you become a player from being important to, I'm not as important anymore. It's me on my own. And if you can't deal with that, then you will struggle. Confidence-wise, exercising, you will find a lack of motivation to even try and get yourself fit again, because you're nobody to all these people now. Even though you're contracted, but you're nobody. And the difference is also the difference that you can see when Dan spoke about it as well, is that when you're a youth team player at these academies, no matter if you're the best player, you still got jobs to do. Where, yeah, I'm good, but all of a sudden you're grounded. You have to then stay humble and go clean those boots. Then it's a reality check. While at the lower leagues, youth team players, first year pros, think they've cracked it because they've signed a deal. And they feel like they don't have to do no jobs no more. You try and speak to them, they speak to you with attitude. And they don't realize how tough this industry is. And as soon as they get released or something goes against them, they don't know how to deal with them, because they're not being brought up in a way that you have to show respect to these people. You have to show respect to yourself. You have to understand how much it takes to get to that level. Whether you're League One, League Two, Championship, Premiership footballer, you have to actually understand all of this, rather than thinking, I've got a scholarship now, I'm a full-time professional footballer, and I'm studying. I don't have to go look for a job. I'm getting paid X amount of money. And all of a sudden, 2 years of scholarship goes by, you don't get nothing offered, all of a sudden, because of your mindset.
I wanted to touch on as well, in terms of like the changing room experience and how you guys have found that in terms of your confidence and how it's affected you as well, because especially when you're in a change room of big characters, sometimes it can knock down your confidence as well, and it can affect you on the pitch and things like that. So again, like with Cristian, obviously you've been in the changing room with huge players like at West Ham. How does that affect you mentally going into games?
I think, obviously, this is all speaking from my own experiences and me being honest. Like, for myself, just because the way I was brought up, and like similar to obviously Dan and probably Gerald and Jayden, like my mum brought me up in a way where it was more about me focusing on myself rather than focusing around about the people that were around me. And it was exciting, don't get me wrong, but the changing room wasn't really as important as it was being on a training pitch for me. So the changing room was just there, you're just getting changed, and obviously you're seeing all these Premier League footballers, or I'm walking like shoulder to shoulder with them in the changing room. It was more about, I don't want to make a bad pass. I don't want to. So before I even started training, I was more worried about the training session itself, not even what I'm capable of doing. More, I don't want to make a mistake. And if you make a bad pass, how are they going to react? Yeah. And the more I train with them, and the more I shared like changing room with these people before training, it became more relaxing and more easier for me to actually engage with them in training. And then it became a way where I am my own player, regardless. Like we're human, to get me. And I am going to make mistakes. It's just how I'm going to take their reactions. And sometimes I didn't take it too well. Because I was young, and it was quite scary. Like, say, like the likes of hearing stories from one day I would train with my normal age group, and then there'll be a different player the first time, and then he will come back and say, "Oh my God, I gave the ball away a couple of times," and then say like you had Craig Bellamy, you know, like he was mad back in the days, and I don't know what he's like now, but I had him. Like my mate will be like, "Yo, he lost his head. He screamed at me a certain way," and I'll be like, "Yo, I don't want it to happen with me." So it was scary. But the older I got, I became this player that I wanted to feel the younger players welcome. I want them. I don't want them to feel the way I felt. And that's what I do now. Like now that I've been in the game for a while now. Whoever comes in on trial, loan, young players, whether the same position as me or not,
you don't make them feel uncomfortable.
I don't want them to feel uncomfortable because that generation, that time is gone. You get me? It's more about if someone comes into your team, you've got to make them feel comfortable.
Welcome.
If they feel welcome, then they feel happy, and if they do sign or if they're on loan or whatever, you're gonna get the best out of them, and then it's gonna be the best for the team as well. And that's how I do my things now, man.
Nice. It's important, man. It's important. And just throwing out a question to all of you guys as well. But in terms of like, how did you handle certain situations? Like, for instance, when you had a bad game, for instance, and the manager didn't really put his arm around your shoulder or whatever, like he didn't really kind of give you that assurance that, you know what, it's okay to have a bad game. Do you know what I mean? How did you deal with that? How did it affect you as well, going long term, on and off the pitch? Because I remember when sometimes if I had a bad game or whatever, like it would affect me when I'm going. Don't laugh here, because Chris, don't you laugh here. But no, but on a real though, it affects you going. Like, for instance, when you're getting changed and you're going home, like, you're just thinking, oh, man, I had a bad game. And then you bring it home to your family and things like that, and it kind of just... You had a shocker, bro. Do you know what I'm saying? You've had a shocker. But again, like... I don't understand, bro. But just throwing it out to anyone who ever feels comfortable to answer it. But, like, how did you guys kind of manage that situation off the pitch, and how did it affect you off the pitch as well?
Are you talking like youth team to everything, or like you're talking professional?
Everything in general.
Boy, youth team, obviously I saw it as like touching on what Cristian was just saying and obviously answering your question at the same time. The whole sense of making people feel uncomfortable comes from watching the first team. Well, this is my experience I can speak for, and I reckon obviously the people that were around me at that time. Watching the first team do it to players that are new, and obviously players like myself that were coming in to train with them and stuff, or a sense of territory. And it's like, it's weird because the balance is, there are so many players that I watch come on trial, even down to like, I've told you years ago, David Alaba come to Tottenham years and years ago when he was at Rapid Vienna, one of them clubs. And he was made to feel uncomfortable in his time when he was there. So thinking back now, that could have affected the way he played. But at the time, I just saw it as one way. If you don't get past the mentality, you're weak. Yeah. And that's the mentality that almost sparks the mental health conversation, realistically, because some of that works for some people. But it's like, if you've got and this is no racial slurs whatsoever, if you got a monkey and you got a snake, like, and you're both teaching them to climb a tree, one's going to naturally be better at climbing that tree. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's like, you got to find different formats with all the money that's invested. And I hate to touch on money, but with all the money that's been invested into academies, all the technology, all the sports science, what Jay spoke about earlier, you need to invest in this side of the game on a vast level where you're able to get coaches that can teach different players in different formats, because everyone learns differently, like, period.
Yeah.
So I think it's a sense of, like, going back to your question, we're starting at academy level. It was like dog eat dog world. So you have that mentality of create your own bubble. If you're a leader, then you're a leader of the pack. And if you're not, then you're a follower of the pack, so to speak. Do you know what I'm saying? Obviously, thinking back now, mentality wise, sorry, could you just repeat the question?
Yeah, no, just kind of like how did you deal with like off the pitch, not necessarily on the pitch, but like obviously off the pitch, how did it affect you and how did you deal with it? Like once you had a bad game or just something didn't go right for you in the day or the manager spoke to you in some type of way, like how did it affect you off the pitch and how did you deal with it?
So off the pitch in youth team level, I would be okay because my whole thing was I'm climbing, I'm on a journey. Obviously, I'll be upset at myself because I was always wanted the best for myself. It was never something that I would like carry into the weeks. As I got older and I came back into the game, the lack of ability, so to speak, of where I was like in the game compared to where I was before, I would get more frustrated at myself because there was more on the line that I was putting for myself. Now, I played my best football to the back end of me almost taking my foot off the pedal. And obviously you could be my witness to that. Like I was able to enjoy myself, play with players that were, you know, just dropped down from the championship and like comfortably, you know, do my own thing. And that's because I felt comfortable within myself at that time because I had realized or said to myself, I don't need to put pressure on myself. But at that point where there was pressure on the line, I'd go home and a manager saying something might stick with me for 3-4 times and I've got to literally pray and think about it and cleanse my mind and all different things in order to better that. But then a key point that Jayden said earlier, when you're doing the training and you're working and you know that you've got certain things, you never, ever, ever let yourself doubt. Now, don't get me wrong, the mental battle is different. But the mentality of a manager telling me, you weren't doing something or whatever I wasn't doing. But once I know I'm putting in the work to rectify that or to do that, so I kind of take what he says with a pinch of salt and more think about the realisms with myself. Like, actually, Dan, you didn't actually have a good game. Do you know what I'm saying?
No,
So
for
I'd
sure.
say it affected me more when I was going through that period where I was putting pressure on myself rather than people putting pressure on me.
No, for sure, man, for sure. And I think when you're younger, I feel like you got that edge on yourself where you're not thinking about things. You don't really care about what this person said to you. I think is once you get older and like you said, when things are more on the line, you start putting pressure on yourself. You start doubting yourself, and it's all these things that it's important to speak about and how people kind of deal with it. And even with Jayden, we've spoken about before, like when you went on trial at Tottenham and how sometimes the boys maybe wouldn't make you feel as comfortable because like technically you're coming to take their spot as well. So like for you mentally as well, like family wise, do you feel like you had the support from everyone to kind of deal with that situation?
Yeah, you know, it was family wise, I feel like we have the support. Well, I'll speak on me. I'll say that I had the support family wise. You know, my sister used to come and watch me play football. My mum will come sometimes for the important games, and then my dad was there, you know, as things were getting better. But just kind of also just touching on everything when it comes to about, you know, like the pressure and stuff when playing. Just to answer your question, I felt that, see, when I was playing, it was always like everything was just easy. It was flowing, like I said, because you're being told that, you know, like by maybe someone else's parents. Maybe like, I thought as we're younger, most of the kids that have the talent, they've probably been playing football from 1 or 2 years old, just kicking a football just around. And then as you get older, you've already practiced more than those other kids that had played or just started to play when they were like 6 or 7. Where I had always played football from when I was like 1 or 2, from when I could walk. But then as time went on and I started to be able to remember things in terms of my performance, that sometimes when you're young, you just play, but you go home after you're happy, you're just happy just to play. It's when you get taught it's about winning. When you don't, when you put so much value on winning. I always remember I was playing a school match and we had just basically got to the semi-finals of one of those little school competitions. And it got to penalties. I'd scored 4 goals. I kept like, you know, getting my school back in the league. Got to penalties and I've gone up to take a penalty and I've kicked my penalty wide. And I just remember that from that point, I never ever wanted to take penalties again. Even now, even if it's a 5-a-side, people will say to me, "Yeah, take the penalty."
We had a little debate
and I'll
about
be
this,
like,
innit?
"Nah." Yeah,
Yo.
I say, "Nah, I don't even want to take the penalty." Even when it's a friendly, even if it's just a little mess around, I never believe in myself to take a penalty because I still have flashbacks of missing and that feeling. And then if you're not then kind of guided to then understand how to change that feeling of that particular moment, that's something that you carry on with you all the way through. It could just be, and a penalty, as we know, when it gets to like penalty shootouts, that's one of the most pressurized situations because it looks so easy to score, and then when you miss, you think, how did you miss from there? When you might be scoring worldies or you're scoring goals from outside the box, and it comes to a penalty, it's like, how do you miss? So I just always remember just always being the main striker of Sunday League level, always saying, "No, I don't want to take the penalty." And then as going through into the academies, it was like that pressurized situation of the penalty. It was like that when I went into training. So I don't really want to mention any of the people's names on here, but just playing at Tottenham, you see some of the boys, the way that they'll stroke a half volley. You know, we will do things like chest fire, then, you know, half volley back to the opponent or the person that you're receiving the ball from. When it came to those things, as soon as I made one mistake and there was a little laughter, I'll think, oh no, they're laughing at me, because in my head I was such a popular kid in school, outside school, but then when it came to people laughing at me, I
weren't used to it.
I weren't used to it. So then again, it becomes to a lot of things that you're not used to, and it's sometimes it can stem from coaches, but I also say our parents are our coaches as well. So sometimes we learn things like from our parents in terms of if we make a mistake. So that can stem from in the house. Sometimes you'll drop a plate and then you'll get shouted at, or you do wrong on your homework and the teachers will teachers won't really necessarily shout at you, but maybe your parents might shout at you for making a mistake. So then the way that you get used to dealing with mistakes is then when you're playing football, sometimes it's that mental side of the game. Then you've just made a mistake and you start shouting at yourself. You start thinking, what would happen if I made a mistake? So I feel that's what kind of got me as I grew older, actually. And I started to, like Cristian said, he's done a lot of reading. I felt like as I started doing a bit of reading, I started reading a lot of like psychological books, like how to visualize the game. And then after a while, when I started to get a bit older, like 17, 18, when I slightly fell out of love with football, because I'm looking back on all the times when I've made a mistake. And I'm going to go to this point quickly before I let someone else speak. But I remember I was at Crystal Palace and I'd played a game in like one of those FA vases or something for Crystal Palace reserves. I was playing against Chipstead. And I had such a great game. Like I was one of the best players on the pitch. I was left wing. Remember, my dad came to watch me. Everybody was happy. I was playing under 16s. The under 18s manager came and they came up to me and they said, "All right, yeah, we're watching you. You had a great game yesterday. We're watching you." And I remember they sat right on the halfway line. And as soon as the ball came to me, was playing an 11-a-side match. Ball came to me. The ball went right under my foot, right in front of the coaches. It's like the ball went right to their lap. So when I turned around, I've had to look at them. They've just seen me just literally have a hole in my foot and the ball's gone underneath. And I remember I crumbled. That I never was able to turn my performance around at Crystal Palace when that happened. Because straight away I was like, oh no, they're not going to sign me now. The ball's just gone under my foot. And because I just stayed thinking about that one mistake for the whole training session. And I remember my game it just declined. It was just like the touch. And I got subbed off in a training match in training. And I was like, how does that happen? But I feel like because they saw the decline, is that they then took me off to try to prevent me from melting. And then I feel like from then on, it was never the same, to be honest. Man, that was a big thing.
What's your take on that, Chris? Because obviously you, for instance, you're playing in front of crowds and things like that. When you make a mistake and, you know, your manager kind of gets on your back, how do you deal with that pressure?
I think for me, I used to deal with the same way like Dan and Jayden literally explained. And it was, and even you, G, because I used to make, not even like have a bad game, just one mistake. and that one mistake will all of a sudden became a bad game. And then I'll go home, and instead of thinking about the good things I did, it was just that one thing that went wrong. And I would get home and I would just literally couldn't sleep. I wouldn't be able to even speak to the missus. And say if my little boy wasn't my little boy, I probably wouldn't even speak to him. But I have to, you get me?
It's not funny, but yeah, I know.
But no, but it is funny in a way, you get me? Because this is what we got to do. We got to normalize this
I
thing,
see
you get me?
humour and everything.
Yeah, no. I hear you. I said if you went for his little boy, we'll talk to him.
Me?
Yeah. No, I hear you. But what would you say, Chris? What would you say? Because everyone just sees like the glitz and glamour of football, and you get get good wages and you get things like that. What's the hardest thing of being a footballer mentally? Obviously, not being able to sometimes go to a certain shop or whatever without getting harassed by some people, whatever. But what would you say for yourself is the hardest thing about being a footballer mentally?
I think for me, obviously, I will speak from the past and now, the differences.
Yeah.
Okay.
The past, the hardest was always trying to please the fans mentally, always trying to please the manager. And to a year and a half ago, I've had to get someone who's a life coach to me now, who I've had for a year and nearly 2 years now. I had to make an investment in myself, to dig deeper, to see why I'm having all these thoughts, to understand myself in a deeper level. And then I realized that no matter what we do or what I do, in this case in football, it's a team sport, but at the end of the day, it's an individual sport.
Yeah.
Because if I underperform, I'm not going to get selected. If I misplace the pass, it's not my teammate, it's me. So I've had to learn how to value myself first, how to appreciate myself, and understand that I'm a human being. So now I go out to play football for myself, to make sure I'm happy with myself, to make sure that I visualize before the games. I'll have like Dan used to get on to me about it, to be fair. And now, before I leave my house, I say like, I've got to be at the ground at 1:30 today. About 12, I will get in my room, close my eyes. I'll have like a guided meditation thing that I listen to every day. That will take me from when I was a young kid all the way through to now. And then it's goal time.
Yeah.
And then the reason why I do that, because if I focus on myself and what I actually enjoy doing, I wouldn't be able to give the best of me, and my teammates will be able to get to the best of me, and the fans will be able to the best of me. If I make a mistake, I've realized now that making a mistake is not something we do on purpose.
Yeah.
We make a mistake trying to make the pass. We make a mistake trying to score a goal. We make a mistake trying to intercept something. Therefore, I can't just go into hiding and beat myself up for it. I've got to want the ball again. I've got to want to score that ball. I've got to want to block the tackle or whatever. And then how I see it as well is I'm playing against 11 players. If they're going to run past me, I ain't going to let them go past me again. I've got to try my best to stop them
tomorrow, isn't it?
Yeah, amen.
So that's what
man had morals on lock that game. But again, see, go on, Dan, go on.
And Phil Foden as well, yeah.
Yeah, and then Aguero as well. Man had Aguero on his toes, and you know what I'm saying. But it was a good game. It was a good game though, the way you had it as well. So you can see that obviously the approach that you're having towards games is effective. Do you know what I mean? So like one thing as well, because again, going back to that question where it's all glitz and glamour for footballers and things like that. But would you say, is there depression or is there a mental side of the game that players sometimes are affected? Would you say that?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, go on. Of course.
It's open.
I would say that, and it's funny because it links to my next question. But it's like, of course, there's a side where players are depressed because people put themselves or feel like or have or actually are in depression. So there's many things that goes into it. Of course, the differentiations are very vast for me personally, like to work out why and how people get there is many different ways. But I feel like a lot of work is being done in football, which is very good at this time because obviously it helps. Yeah. But I also feel like there needs to be a lot of work done with managers because they go through a lot of mental stress, and that stress is then like
transferred to the players.
The players. Do you know what I mean? So if the work is done from, you know, this way down and filter into the players, then it sets a better precedent for the players to be able to accept it more and openly. Because a lot of the time why players don't accept it is because they're like, boy, if I accept that I have mental health or I have difficulties or I have challenges within me, my manager is going to say I'm weak because he's old school. And all he cares about is me being able to perform. Can you perform? Yeah, okay, cool. Then I can rely on you. But if we're understanding that the managers have to do their work, then it leaves the players with an openness to be able to be like, yes, this is what's going on. Now, people say silly things like, how can you be depressed and you're getting all this money? Because people always think about finance as a tool to happiness. You understand? Like, honestly speaking, there's been times where I've chased money, of course. I still work hard in order to get certain levels of security, maybe working a bit backwards these days. I'm more working for financial freedom. That kind of doesn't make sense, but it makes sense.
Makes sense.
But the understanding of it is like, you're looking at it from a perspective of people always thinking about money as the tool to your happiness. I've never seen money as a tool to my happiness. When I was a kid, I got out and played. I used to have boys in my area that were making millions of the wrong things, and they'll be like, come. And I'll be like, nah, I'm happy being a kid at this point. To the point where you get called you're a waste man. You're like them other guys from the other area or whatever. Do you know what I'm saying? Because my mentality was like, no, I'm going to enjoy this space where I'm in now. Like when I'm young, I'm going to play runouts and I'm going to do what I need to do. So like veering back to football, it's that same concept of people pushing issues away because they feel like people are getting money. So it's a culture too. And it's a worldwide culture, but honestly speaking, it's more of a British culture than any other culture, or a European culture more than any other culture. In America, you can be yourself. You can be free. You're a basketballer. You see LeBron. He's a big man. He's got a family. He's got a wife. He's dancing on camera with his friends because that's his vibe. That's who he is. But there's another guy who plays basketball. He may not be so much like LeBron, but he's allowed to be that way. He's allowed to make money. People will say, wow, he just struck $1 billion deal with Nike. That's so amazing. Do you know what I'm saying? But here, it's like Raheem Sterling, 70 mil for Jordan. What's he done to get that deal?
I was just going to say that as well, no?
Pressure.
Sorry. I was just going to touch on that as well, like in terms of media and things like that. Like Mason Greenwood, that, you know, young players make mistakes as they grow up. Do you know what I mean? They're going to make mistakes. And it's like they tarnish these young players straight away, and especially players that are not English, if you know what I mean. Like, do you know what I mean? If there's a young black player or someone that's not from England as such, like they'll touch more so on that. Like, what's your thoughts on, again, the media in terms of, I'll ask Jayden as well, like, because obviously you're a United fan, and, you know, see Mason Greenwood, the way he's been painted, he's a United fan. He's a United. He's a United fan. So it's an open question. You guys can obviously speak about it, but like, again, for me, it's a thing where it's a bit, for me, it's wrong, man, because the guy's just made a mistake. He's made a mistake. And then I think they've brought up another article of him doing balloons, like.
Yeah. Gary never touched on that though. Gary never just said that. It's almost like trying to bully someone, isn't it? Like, because they're saying that he made one mistake already with England. Now it's just about trying to find out other story. And me personally, I don't know. I couldn't really answer the question because I don't really know about that side of the media side of things. Obviously, we just see what we get seen in the media, and then sometimes for us, it'll be more for like Christian to probably answer that. See those things more so it's like you know, when you're inside of it. For us, we only get to see the outside. Oh, I wonder how that's affected that player, or I wonder how he took that on. But obviously in the changing room and to the people that we would speak in the professional game, Christian, is you probably be able to see those players every day more so, or some of those players that have those type of things you know, said against them. Especially, you wasn't at West Ham when Jack Wilshere was there, was you?
No.
Yeah, so but just in general, just probably players that, you know, that you've seen that's been in the media, or even players in your division.
Even I was going to say even Chris, when obviously
Himself.
Chris, you went through what you went through, and then it's like the media started bringing up things from years ago. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
so like,
or even untrue statements.
That's what I'm saying, man.
Yeah.
I think that it's weird because what Dan mentioned about America and that, like, we were, like, me and the teammates were talking about like some stories from America and how people are so free. No matter what they say, what they do, they just, you know what, if that makes them happy, leave them. In the UK, it's different. Like, you get caught up in a situation, it could be made up, it could be anything. All of a sudden, boom, the gangster or gangbanger, or like they will just tarnish your actual image with things that you're not. And they only do that to sell, which is bad. Like, it's, obviously, it's how they're making money, whatever, but it's wrong what they do, because that then goes back to what we're talking about. It could affect people's mental health. Like, it affected me massively because I got accused of what I got accused of, and I was, to an extent, I was sad, I was down, I was broken, but I wasn't like fully head fucked, basically. Sorry for swearing, but until I started seeing all these articles. Former West Ham player involved in gang bang in this. Former West Ham player involved in money laundering, match fixing, and accused of fraud. And I'm sat home thinking, I've done none of this. But they're not interested in listening to the actual story and what actually happened. And when you do actually tell them the story of what actually happened, they never publish it.
No.
You get me? And when you do actually get cleared of the things you're getting accused of, or there's a reason for what you've done, that it seems acceptable, they don't even publish it. Oh, he was wrongly accused, or he didn't do it like that. They don't even come out and actually
say sorry,
apologize.
Don't even turn up to court.
That's what I'm saying. So I think what they do is wrong, and a lot of, like, especially with what happened with Mason Greenwood, obviously, I've seen it, like, obviously it's being well documented that with the females and what went on, like what they did outside the hotel, recording the phone call. Obviously it's a mistake, end of the day, the kid's young. Probably never ever done something like that. But what you do now, what you can see from him is how he moves on from that.
He apologized.
He apologized already. Okay, leave the kid alone. He's 18. And now, if he does something like that again, then that's when you can hopefully try and, like, you know what, he's not learning. Second time, it won't be a mistake. It'll be by choice.
Yeah, of course.
So it's about giving these kids a chance.
Yeah,
understand that they're young. You get me?
I don't know who it was, but someone said in the media the other day. It was part of his statement, actually, and Mason was saying that, you know, like, I'm 19 and I'm gonna make mistakes, but of course, because I'm a footballer, the stature and the profession that I am, people are gonna come down on me a lot harder, which is understandable. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, that's just what it is. But at the same time, you gotta get to a sense in life where you understand people are people, and unfortunately, that's that same mentality that I'm touching on. It's a sense of jealousy. So it's a sense of, if you're doing well in your profession and you're a young, successful, very good, promising footballer, and you're not the way that I like, or I don't support you fully, maybe because of the color of your skin. It's a sense of, if then something happens, I haven't got anything against you, but if something happens, now I'm against you, and I'm going to come out and openly speak about the things that I dislike. Because without digging out anyone else, and, you know, I'd love to have him on a podcast, I'm not digging him out, but Harry Maguire, for instance,
oh my God.
he's an older player. That's what I'm saying. Like, He's an older player.
Sorry.
Go
How
on,
mad is this? Yeah. As you mentioned his name was already in my head. You know, about the media thing.
It's like,
carry on.
He's an older player, so like you've got more responsibility, and you're a captain, so it's like immense responsibility. There's no 2 stories posted about you. There's no repetition of it. It was like an ongoing thing for a couple of days. They were on him at the points where they realized that, you know, England could be against him, because there was talks of people in the England camp saying that he might have got, you know, dropped permanently, and there was talks about them stripping the captaincy from him from United. Once those talks were done and United confirmed we're sticking with him, and England's like, we're going to give him a break, but we're sticking with him, everyone's on his side again. It's finished, all over. Now it's the Greek police, the poor Greek police. It's their fault. They did whatever. Now, I don't know the story. I know people are very ambitious, and I know people are very opportunist-like. But I also know what BS sounds like. And all this about some Albanian guys trying to do X, Y, and Z to his sister. My gosh, bro.
Yeah, do you know what it is? I saw some like articles and he was just saying Albanian gangsters and things like that. And I was just like...
Yo, are you Albanian as well, G? G, are you Albanian?
Yeah, but do you know what I mean? But it's just like, again, it's just the way the media kind of portray things. It's like, this, if you're from this country, you got to be this, like, you Colombians, like, oh, Escobar, you must be involved in something. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, bro.
Oh, them coffee, mate. Coffee.
Do you know what I mean? We're not all the same, man. But yeah, man, it's interesting. It's interesting. Like, again, it's a topic that I feel like, I don't know, man. Do you guys see a change in terms of the media and things like that?
Media?
Not media. No, never.
No.
Never, man.
No.
What about
the only way you're gonna change the media is giving more power to the people, which is things like podcasts and YouTube and stuff, and they're never gonna let that fully happen.
Yeah. And in terms of, oh, sorry, Jayden.
Go on, Chris. Go on.
No, go on.
I was just gonna say the change that I see from like back in the day is the fact that you have more social platforms in terms of social media, like the Instagrams and Twitter. So I feel like players are able now to kind of more so quickly, express their opinions in a quicker state of, I feel more people they've got more audience to say, oh, this is what happened and this is what happened. Whereas back in the day, it wasn't true, like always like that. So if it was in the paper, it was just in the paper. Whereas now you're able to come out and give maybe an explanation, or you've got certain people that have got such a core base following that no matter what the media say about that particular person, they're going to have the backing of different fans. Like, for example, Greenwood, if you go on Greenwood's page, you'll probably have a lot of support there to help him to get through it. You might then go down in the comments, you might have a few odd people, but I don't know, when I was on checking out his media and Foden's thing, you have a lot of people like making a joke on it. They were more saying, yeah, he's young, do you know what I mean? And he's 18, he's giving the girls the Greenwood, he's giving them the wood, like, do you know what I'm saying? So you laugh about it, do you know what I mean? People would find it comical in a sense, whereas if it was without Instagram, all of that, and he just got subjected to that without it, he might have suffered a lot more probably by himself, whereas at least he's able to maybe go onto social media, and sometimes there's a gift and there's a curse of it. So I'd probably say it's changed on that aspect. So
that's a good.
It's a good point. It's a good point, man.
I think I'll say one more thing. I think we need to, obviously, I don't know if this is happening, but we need to hire more responsible and capable and realistic people on these channels, because it needs to be, I'm not just talking about diversity just about skin color, I'm talking about diversity of background and culture and where you've come from. There's a lot of the same type of guys, and I mean no disrespect to anyone, whether it be Neville, whether it be Carragher, like Jamie Carragher, realistically, and I'm just going to say it as it is, shouldn't really be on Sky Sports after spitting
what he's done. Yeah.
Because you've got no space to then speak about a young player who's being irresponsible, because you're a grown man who's finished his career. Bro, you're in a overfinch Range Rover. Yeah. Like, you could have just breezed off and gave him your exhaust pipes. Like, realistically.
Yeah, for real. For real.
I've won the league before, or whatever. You haven't won it.
He's definitely not won the league, boy. He won Champions League, but he won the league.
That's why he's smacked.
He's upset. Go on, brother.
My question was the balance between, obviously, football is a challenging sport. And when we're talking about the level that we're speaking about on average, we're talking about the elite and the top level, right? So in order to be the top or the elite in anything in this world, you have to be strong. So what is the balance between, because of course in life, everything is a trickle down effect. So some people will come out and speak about their actual challenges that they have and it's accepted. There's going to be people that don't have issues that are going to jump on the bandwagon. Where is the balance where we talk about, or we discuss, or we put mental health on the table, and the balance to still being, you need to be pushed at times, and you need to be driven, and you need, you need that mentality. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, where is that balance?
There's a thin line in it. Yeah, no, I'll just quickly answer. Well, I'll just give my thoughts on that. I feel like there's more awareness when it comes to mental health, and I feel like you said, Dan, I feel like some people kind of jump on a bandwagon, and it's like any little thing that happens, it's like, oh, I'm feeling like this, and you know, and it's like super sensitive to certain things and whatnot. And there's nothing wrong with that, being sensitive to certain things or energies or like feelings. Like that's good, because that means that you're in tune with your emotions. But at the same time, don't use that as an excuse to kind of stop you from getting to where you are, because to get to the levels, for instance, if we're talking about football, the highest level, mate, it's hard work, bro. It's hard work. Like you're gonna get knocked down. You're gonna get people that basically you're fighting for a position where you're having to fend for your family. Like you want to put food on your table. So why should I leave that space open for you? Who's going to feed my family? Do you know what I mean? So it's like, it's that mentality that you have to get to that place. And it's like, you see players like Messi sometimes where people are like, oh yeah, he's a nice guy. He's a nice guy. But when it comes to his craft, you better believe that Messi's not the best. He's not the nicest guys out there in the world. You don't get to that level if you're the nicest guy. And you see like, the documentary now of the All or Nothing, the Tottenham one, where Mourinho's drilling and he's trying to install that mentality. Like, you lot are nice guys. Like,
it's not good enough.
It's not good enough. You want to get to that next level, you have to be ruthless. You know what I mean? So I feel like the line is very thin to kind of answer your question in terms of where do you draw that line. It's very, very thin in my opinion. I feel like you have to be aware of yourself, be aware of what you're more so sensitive to, and what more so you're kind of got a hard shell towards. You know what I mean? I feel like using something that you feel like it's going to drive you to the next level. I feel like we have to make that work. And like you said, Chris and Jayden, it's like, excuse me, we have to do the work. So whether that means reading a book, whether that means we have to go through our own trials and tribulations and learning from it, and kind of using that as a fuel to kind of push you forward. So it's like, it's up to you. You can either use your past to kind of keep you back, or you can use your past to drive you forward. Do you know what I mean? It's one of the two. So in my opinion, the line is very, very thin. So I don't know about you boys.
I would say one thing, and I agree with what you guys are saying. And I think end of the day, it comes down to the individual. It comes down to, you have to embrace your journey or whatever's happened to you. You have to accept it. You have to reflect on what actually happened and how you felt. Yeah. And if you can't do that, then what I advise people to do, for example, like in my case now, is whatever, if I'm sat right here, for example, and I'm in a good mood, all of a sudden I'm getting all these thoughts going through my head. I will sit down and write them down. And tomorrow I'll be so down and I'm still getting different type of thoughts. Yeah. I'll write them down and I compare both of them.
Techniques.
I compare both of them. That's how I deal with my day-to-day life. And he's helped me he's helped me. And I take that into football as well. And then when something happens, how do I get over certain situations? Yeah. It's by watching the language I use to like when I'm speaking to myself. That's how I get over certain things, because a lot of the times that shouldn't have happened. Well, fuck, it's happened already. Why are you arguing with reality? It happened. So what could have happened is different. Watch how you speak. Yeah. Watch what you tell yourself about what you've done and what you've been through. And like for me, it's helped me massively, and then hopefully you can help someone else. Then
One thing as well, yeah, that you pointed out, and that's something that I've seen Jayden do before as well, and it's kind of I've implemented that in my life as well, is like kind of journaling as well. Like back in the days, mate, journaling, you're like, nah, that's not what you do. Do you know what I mean?
It's
But
long.
seeing it's long, but at the
That's
same
what you
time,
say.
I'm not gonna lie, like what you said as well. When I look at the notes that I've written down when, like, say a year ago to where I am now, like say we're in September last year, and I look at the way I was feeling, it's kind of similar as well. So I'm like, it's a good way to kind of document your feelings, because you can try to pick out, like, why was I feeling like that in September then to where I am now? Like, what's the pattern? And you can kind of work it out and kind of see, all right, cool, that worked for me, like, or that didn't work for me, and you can draw a line from there, and then you can move forward. So it's like, it's that self-improvement as well. But using techniques like that, I found it very good, and I've got that from Jayden as well. So, like, Jay, I don't know if you want to touch on that as well.
Yeah, I just got the writing down. I can't remember what it was. I just also thought that sometimes in life, though, you come across certain things in life. Either you come across a certain person, or you read a certain book, or you find a certain article. So for me, it was like I found like an article. This is probably after sport, and the article was just basically teaching me, or showing me basically, sorry, there was a flare there, how to actually write things down. So I started just writing things down, just in general. I kind of found that more so from music though. When I used to start doing music, I write down lyrics, and then the lyrics will be kind of more on how I felt. I feel like with the mental health journey, or the emotional health journey, it's just always about, again, it's individualism. Did I say that word right, Dan?
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, nice. I'm learning more content. Yeah. So I feel like it's based on that. So with the writing, I've kind of taken that now out of my everyday life, which I want to get back into. But again, it's always about organization. But I just found different ways in which to just kind of keep the mind. And I feel like the key thing, especially even in sport, especially in everyday life, where it comes to practice, when it comes to playing in a match, is to always just be present. How do I stay present? What can I do to stay present? Sometimes in a match, like, when you make that mistake, you're not present if you're thinking about the mistake that's just gone by. You know what I mean? And then I kind of just started to find that with writing, it helps with that present moment. So you start to understand the feeling, but there's other ways in which you can feel them. So yeah, I've just gone into a lot of different types of stuff to kind of feel that mental health. But you know what I really wanted to say kind of went out of my head, in it basically, so I can't actually remember what I was going to say. But yeah. It's just all about
it happens. It happens to me a lot.
It's just about presence, and finding the right techniques for yourself at that moment. Like Chris was saying, before his matches, he visualizes before the match, and I was doing that as well to a certain point. And then I read something about Messi. Messi says he doesn't do any visualization before a match, and I was like, wow, that's a bit different, because most of the top sports people would usually say that they visualize, but Messi was just like, what can I do when I'm in the match? All I can do is just basically stay present. And if I stay in the match, then I'm always going to be involved in the game. Whereas if I try to think about how I want my game to go, it might disrupt my fluidity. So again, it's just just an individual has different ways of helping out their mental side of the game. Oh, that's what I was going to say quickly. I was going to say, in sport, it's always good to watch top athletes and find about their mindset. So even that documentary, Michael Jordan, the one
Last
with the
Dance.
whole
Last Dance,
and you then get to see his mentality. And then if you listen to how people spoke about Kobe Bryant, it's almost the same, that them guys were quite selfish, but they were quite in themselves, and they gave it the big. And then even like when we're speaking about sport and we go into academies, sometimes we meet those players as well that, like I was saying, when you're doing the certain techniques, and then you get people either laughing at you, or you get somebody like trying to maybe kind of stick it on you a bit, and then that person might make you feel a bit, oh no, closed in. But really, that person, they're doing that because either your mindset will be, I need to get better so that they can't laugh at me anymore. I need to, grow. if you're playing with like a Michael Jordan, he's gonna crush your confidence then. But if you watch what it is that he's doing with himself every day, he's practicing. So you've got to kind of watch what those top athletes are doing and listen to, again, like Chris was saying, the words that they're using and the words that they're telling themselves, how they're encouraging themselves, how they're making themselves feel better, because nobody's going to make you feel good about yourself the way only you can make you feel good about yourself. And I feel like as your journey with the mental health or the emotional health goes on, it's all about the conversation that really you have with yourself more than what anybody tells you. Someone might tell you you had a great game, but you know as an individual that your game wasn't as good as what someone else says. But if you take on what they say, then you might allow your standards to drop. You might have a great game and someone might tell you your game was poor. But then if you allow someone again to tell you what your game was like, rather than you being able to understand it, then, you know, you kind of go down. But again, it's always about the conversation you have with yourself off the field, on the court, or off the court. It's always, that's what it's always
for sure,
about,
man.
really.
For sure. Powerful,
Key
man.
points.
No, for sure, man. And do you know what? I feel blessed about is like having people like you in my life, like you guys, because I've seen you guys' journey where you've come from and to where you are now. And it's like that mental resilience is there from every single one of you. Do you know what I mean? It's like, and being around that energy and being around you guys, it's like, it's empowering. And I feel like people out there, if you're going through anything or anything that you feel like you can't handle, like, because I feel like people can handle it. I feel as human beings, we're built to not handle a lot of stress, but we're built to go through things. I feel like we're strong enough mentally. I feel like our mind's like the strongest thing out here in this world. Very adaptable characters, you know what I mean? So I feel like, again, having the likes of you boys, but I'm not going to lie. There's days I wake up and I'm like, I don't really feel like it today, you know what I mean? Like,
you think of me, innit?
Then I think about Christian's goatee.
You're like, bro, I don't want that hairline. I need to work.
Do you know what I'm saying? Oh! Do you know what I mean? So it's like, but on a serious note, it's like you need people around you, and it's like when I start thinking about, on a real, like when I start thinking of people like Chris and know his journey and what he's gone through, it's like that's empowering. That's what Dan, Jayden, his journey and things like that. Do you know what I mean? It's like, you know what, you can get through this, and you got people around you that will support you. So I feel like having that group around you is vital. And yeah, joining these groups as well. Like Chris, I don't know if you want to big up the organization that you're in collaboration with at the moment.
Yeah, no, obviously big up Men Unite, and also like there's another group a couple of my mates who we've got 2 psychologists in the group already as well.
Okay.
It's another one called Men United for Change, and the reason why they named it Men United for Change, is because they support Manchester United Football Club. Imagine that.
In the world, mate.
So
great people.
So like it's 2 groups, man, that working hard with mental health, where we share our stories and people can like feel comfortable listening to what we talk about and realize like it's normal that as humans we do encounter this type of emotions and feelings, and it's right to speak. You can't just hide it away due to the fact that you're scared of being judged. And those people who have friends or families that are struggling, just be kind to them. Just listen, don't rush them, be patient with them. And if you do want to help them, at the point they come to share their stories with you, if you want to help them, you ask them questions that are open for them to carry on the conversation. Other than, don't worry, you'll get over it. Like, you get me? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, for sure, man. For sure.
But it's good, man.
No, it's good. It's good work, bro. And keep it up. And good luck for the rest of the season. Well, season just started. The rest of the season, you know. Well, good luck for the season.
For the season.
Yeah. Do what you need to do. You know, we've always got our support on this side, so without a doubt. And boys as well. Let's go, champion mindset, everyone. The merch is coming out soon. You'll be able to get the merch and support. Again, just support your people, man. Like, they're trying to do good things. So, like, again, Appreciate you boys
Hey,
coming
man.
on and sharing
Thank
your.
you. Likewise. Thanks for
I'm
having
sure
us, bro.
we can do this on a regular basis in terms of we can do this all day long. And big up Elevern as well, another brand that's again uplifting and empowering the people. So yeah, man, big up Jayden. Thank you again, bro.
Nice.
Nice people.
up,
And
man.
again, don't forget,
Thank you, brothers.
support the channel as well, yeah, so that we can
Like and subscribe so we can grow and you can see
man.
us doing more amazing content.
For sure, man.
Different locations, you know, when we get out of this quarantine situation, meeting up with people personally, support us, be part of the journey, bro.
Yeah, man, for
Part
sure,
of the journey, man. Show
For
love.
sure, man. Peace, guys.
Different
Peace.
topics. Respect.
Yeah, bro.
Love.